Anxiety doesn't come from the future. It comes from the battle inside me that never stops. There are days when I wake up with a quiet tension already inside me. Nothing has happened yet. Nothing has gone wrong. Nothing has challenged me. And still, I feel a subtle pressure in my chest, a restlessness in my thoughts, a sense that something is not quite right. This anxiety follows me through the day, sometimes loudly, sometimes quietly, but always present. And when I finally stop and ask myself why I live this way, the answer is never simple. Anxiety is not just fear. It is not just stress. It is not just worry. Anxiety is the constant feeling that I must be prepared for something, even when I don't know what that something is. It is the sense that life is unpredictable, that I am vulnerable, and that I must stay alert to protect myself. Anxiety is the inner tension that grows when my heart tries to control what cannot be controlled. One of the reasons I live in constant anxiety is the pressure I place on myself. I want to do everything right. I want to avoid mistakes. I want to meet expectations, my own and those of others. I want to be responsible, reliable, strong, and prepared. But this pressure creates a weight that never leaves. Even when I rest, I feel guilty for resting. Even when I succeed, I fear losing what I gained. Anxiety becomes the shadow of perfectionism. Another reason I live in anxiety is the fear of uncertainty. I want clarity. I want predictability. I want to know what will happen tomorrow, next week, next year. But life does not offer this kind of certainty. Life moves in unexpected ways. And when I try to force clarity where clarity does not exist, anxiety grows. It grows from the gap between what I want and what reality is. I also live in anxiety because I carry unresolved emotions, old fears, old wounds, old disappointments. They don't disappear just because time passes. They stay inside me, shaping how I react to new situations. When something reminds me of past pain, even slightly, anxiety rises. It rises because my heart remembers what my mind tries to forget. Another source of anxiety is comparison. When I compare myself with others, I feel behind. I feel inadequate. I feel like I'm not doing enough, not achieving enough, not becoming enough. Comparison creates a constant sense of urgency, the feeling that I must catch up, improve, or prove myself. And this urgency feeds anxiety every day. I also live in anxiety because I try to control too much. I try to control outcomes, circumstances, relationships, and even emotions. I try to control how people see me, how life unfolds, and how challenges appear. But control is an illusion. The more I try to control, the more anxious I become. Anxiety grows from the impossible task of managing everything. Another reason anxiety stays with me is the noise of modern life. Constant information, constant stimulation, constant expectations. They overwhelm my mind. I rarely have silence. I rarely have stillness. I rarely have moments when I can hear my own thoughts. Without silence, anxiety has no space to dissolve. It stays because I never pause long enough to let it go. I also live in anxiety because I often ignore my limits. I push myself too hard. I take on too much. I say yes when I should say no. I try to be everything for everyone. And when I exceed my limits, my body and mind respond with anxiety. Anxiety becomes the signal that I am living beyond my capacity. Another reason anxiety feels constant is that I resist my emotions. When I feel fear, I try to suppress it. When I feel sadness, I try to distract myself. When I feel anger, I try to hide it. But suppressed emotions don't disappear. They transform into anxiety. Anxiety becomes the container for everything I refuse to feel. I also live in anxiety because I forget to trust. Trust is not blind optimism. It is the quiet belief that I will be able to face whatever comes. When I lose trust, everything feels dangerous. Everything feels heavy. Everything feels uncertain. Anxiety grows in the absence of trust. Another reason anxiety stays is that I expect life to be smooth. I expect relationships to be simple. I expect decisions to be clear. I expect emotions to be stable. But life is not smooth. Life is complex. Life is unpredictable. When I expect stability in a world that is naturally unstable, anxiety becomes inevitable. I also live in anxiety because I forget to breathe. Not physically, but emotionally. I rush through my days. I rush through my thoughts. I rush through my decisions. Anxiety grows in the spaces where I refuse to slow down. But when I look honestly at myself, I see that anxiety is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign that my heart is overwhelmed. It is a sign that I care deeply. It is a sign that I am trying to protect myself. Anxiety is not the enemy. It is a message. The question is not how to eliminate anxiety completely, but how to understand it. When I listen to my anxiety, I begin to see what it is trying to tell me. Sometimes it tells me that I am carrying too much pressure. Sometimes it tells me that I am expecting too much from myself. Sometimes it tells me that I am living too fast. Sometimes it tells me that I am trying to control what cannot be controlled. Sometimes it tells me that I am ignoring my emotions. And sometimes it tells me that I am afraid of uncertainty. Anxiety becomes lighter when I stop fighting it and start understanding it. It becomes lighter when I slow down, when I breathe, when I rest, when I allow myself to be human, when I accept that life is unpredictable, when I trust that I can face what comes, when I stop comparing myself with others, when I stop demanding perfection, when I stop carrying burdens alone. Anxiety becomes lighter when I begin to live with honesty, not with fear. And when I do, I begin to see that constant anxiety is not my destiny. It is simply a signal that invites me to live with more clarity, more patience, and more trust.